Debate, the honourable member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what happened to Canada? Everyone we talk to across this country, they ask the same thing. What happened to Canada? Canada is not Canada anymore. Because after 9 years of this weak and incompetent Prime Minister and this incompetent Liberal-NDP government, they've caused the worst cost of living crisis in Canadian history. With this incompetent Prime Minister supported by the leader of the NDP, who has nothing but greed for his $2.2 million pension, who's put his pension over Canadians, pension over country. He helped this Prime Minister add more debt to Canadians than every single Prime Minister before him combined. It gave Canadians this cost of living crisis. It increased food bank usage. Food bank usage has doubled since 2019. Now more than 2 million Canadians are visiting a food bank in a single month in this country, a third of which are children. 1 in 4 Canadians have started skipping meals. And 1 in 5 children are living in poverty now. We never used to hear about this stuff before, only in the last 9 years. And what changed? What happened 9 years ago? We got an incompetent, weak Prime Minister that's been propped up by a weak leader of the NDP. That's what happened to this country, Mr. Speaker. And now they've doubled housing costs, doubled food bank usage, and doubled the national debt. That's why Canadians are suffering more than ever before. That's why we see tent cities all across the country. We see crime, chaos, drugs and disorder all over our communities because of soft on crime policies, bail policies that are savaging our streets right now. And it's hard for the police to keep up. This is what incompetence looks like. That's why whether you were born here and you grew up here or you immigrated here like my family, the common theme is Canada is not Canada anymore. People just want their Canada back. The one that we once knew and still love. The one where you could put in hard work and earn a powerful paycheck. One where you could afford rent, afford mortgage, go to the grocery store and afford groceries again. That's the kind of Canada people want back. But there's only one way to get that Canada back. It'll happen in a carbon tax election when Canadians fire this incompetent Liberal-NDP government with this weak Prime Minister and replace him with a common-sense Conservative government with Prime Minister, with the member from Carleton that will restore that Canada that we all once knew before. And to cover up all this incompetence, all this pain and suffering, this Liberal-NDP government has spread throughout Canada over the last 9 years. Now they put forward a temporary 2-month tax trick. They'd rather take pennies off Pringles, chump change off of chocolate, and cents off of Skittles than axe the tax to actually bring down the cost of groceries. This is a government that has driven investment out, that drove up food prices. In fact, Canada's food prices are 37% higher than the U.S. Mr. Speaker, you know what the U.S. doesn't have? They don't have a carbon tax scam. They don't have one. And their prices are lower. Can you believe that? And they're able to build more. They can get more energy projects built. They can get more business. They have more powerful paychecks for their workers, better jobs. And what's sad is over the last 9 years, almost $500 billion of that investment in the U.S. came from Canada. That's what this incompetent, weak Prime Minister did. He drove our jobs, our business, our investment to the U.S. And now he somehow says that Canadians are just feeling a vibe session. They're not vibing. That's the problem. It's Canadians' fault. They just don't feel it. So their fix to this vibe session is to take pennies off of Pringles, off of cheese puffs. This is their solution. But at least it's better than, actually it's almost as bad as saying, just cancel your Disney Plus or stop driving around, take a bike, use your bike. This is what incompetence looks like. It's all in this Liberal-NDP government. It's on full display in the last 9 years. They came out with this inflationary temporary tax trick and sold it as saying, and the member from Vaughan Woodbridge was bragging that somehow it's going to create all this new business. Well, here's the reality, Mr. Speaker. There was a report that came out that said only a mere 4% of small business owners believe they will have stronger sales as a result of this tax trick. 4%. 75% say it will be costly and complicated to implement. We're hearing from businesses it'll cost anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a minimum because they'll have to change their POS systems not once, twice. And they're doing it at the worst time possible. This is one of the busiest weeks for businesses. It's Black Friday tomorrow. And this is the time they chose to do it? This is pure incompetence on full display. A majority of businesses says there's not enough time to implement. A majority of businesses say it will be difficult to determine which items are temporarily tax exempt. It's a majority of businesses that say the goods that are subject to the holiday report consumers will delay purchases, messing with business projections and stock. And it is a major majority that say it will benefit the big businesses and online giants, meaning more money for Liberal-NDP friends like the Galen-Weston family, and pain with no gain for small businesses. This is the reality, and it does nothing for the productivity crisis that this Prime Minister created, that sees that our investment is fleeing to the U.S., but now Canadian workers are $32,000 poorer than U.S. workers. If this incompetent government had just kept pace with this golden plate that Prime Minister Stephen Harper had left them in 2015, workers would be $4,200 richer in Canada. But instead, they're much more poorer off. And it's clear to see. The population growth created a worse housing crisis. And now we see students living under bridges. We see teachers or people with good jobs living in cars. And people that used to donate their time at food banks are now standing in line in food banks. There are people that a husband and wife at home, both good earning paychecks, that are working in there. But Mr. Speaker, it's not just us saying it, it's proud Liberals like David Dodge, who just said, who was the Bank of Canada's governor, that says this is not the right package. It's a little candy today for pain down the road. I would say that this pain didn't start today. It started 9 years ago. And it'll be our kids, their kids, their kids, and their kids that'll be paying for this absolute incompetence. But we can put an end to this today, Mr. Speaker, because it wasn't like this before this incompetent Liberal-NDP government, and it won't be like that after they're gone. Because if they can just find the courage to call a carbon tax election so Canadians can fire this incompetent government, a common-sense Conservative government will bring real relief. Immediately, we're going to axe the tax. We're going to bring down the cost of gas, groceries, and home heating. We're going to axe the sales tax on homes, brand new homes built under $1 million, so 30,000 new homes can be built a year. And people can save on their mortgages and the cost of homes. We're going to fix this Liberal-made productivity crisis by unleashing our economy, unleashing our energy sector, the one that's actually keeping this government from taking Canada into a recession, the one they keep attacking with ridiculous policies like this oil and gas cap, which is actually a production cap that's chasing our resources, our money, our jobs outside of Canada. We're going to unleash that economy once again so Canada can become the Canada that we all once knew before and still love, because we're going to bring that home under a common sense Conservative government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.